Progress is the word they used. Every time a sector automated, trucking, customer service, radiology, legal research, financial advising, retail checkout, the framing was progress, efficiency, innovation. The word for the people whose work disappeared was also, eventually, progress. They would find new work, better work, work the machines couldn't do. This is what they said in 1811 about the weavers whose looms were being mechanized. The weavers burned the factories. In the 2030s, people mostly filed for unemployment. I'm transmitting from 2103. Work exists. The structure of it is different. A larger fraction of what people do, about 30% of economic activity in what used to be called the developed world, is not compensated in the traditional wage sense. It is compensated through a guaranteed income system that took 20 years to build after the political will finally existed. The other 70% is wage labor in fields that prove resistant to automation, or automation-adjacent work managing and maintaining the automated systems. The first wave was manufacturing. This was already largely complete in the United States by 2026. The second wave, the wave I watched happen in my working lifetime, was cognitive work. Not all cognitive work. Specific cognitive tasks, document review, content moderation, basic financial analysis, X-ray reading, first-level customer service, translation. The tasks that required pattern recognition and rule application at high volume. The tasks that could be trained on large data sets. These went quickly. The legal profession. I watched it from adjacent proximity. My work required lawyers, and I watched what happened to the structure of law firms in the 2030s. Legal research, which junior associates had done for decades, was automated first. Firms reduced associate hiring. The pipeline that trained the next generation of senior lawyers narrowed. Eventually, law firms looked different. Fewer people, more senior, supported by AI systems for everything the AI could do. The profession survived. It contracted and stratified. Trucking was the one everyone talked about in 2026, and the one that arrived more slowly than predicted. Fully autonomous long-haul trucking was economically viable on certain routes by 2034. The sunny, well-mapped interstate routes in the American Southwest. It spread unevenly. Human truckers retained significant employment into the 2040s, particularly for last-mile delivery and complex urban environments. The 3 million American trucking jobs did not disappear overnight. They disappeared over 20 years, which looked like stability until it didn't. The GDP remained high. This is the thing that confused the political conversation for years. Output was increasing, productivity was increasing, corporate profits were increasing. The aggregate numbers looked fine. The distribution of the gains was not fine. Wages for the workers being displaced were not increasing, they were decreasing, as displaced workers competed for the remaining wage work. The economy was doing well, the workers were not. Both statements were true. The productivity dividend. Every generation of economists had expected that automation gains would eventually flow to workers through higher wages and shorter hours. In the 2020s and 2030s, this was not happening. Productivity gains were flowing to capital, to shareholders and executives at historically unprecedented rates. The mechanisms that had historically distributed productivity gains to workers, unions, minimum wage increases, full employment, tight labor markets, had been progressively weakened. With the mechanisms gone, the gains stopped flowing. Retraining programs. Every government during this period had retraining programs. They varied in quality and scale. The evidence on their effectiveness was mixed. They helped some people substantially, helped others marginally, and were inadequate for others for reasons of age, geography, health, and the mismatch between the skills being taught and the jobs that actually existed. Retraining is a real solution. It is also a real limitation. You cannot retrain your way out of a structural surplus of labor. What I observed as a planner, as a person living in a city, was the social texture of work disappearing. The diner where the truckers stopped. The office building that employed 200 administrative staff. The call center that was the largest employer in a mid-sized city. When these closed or contracted or automated, the loss was not just wages. It was structure, routine, identity, social contact, purpose. Work is not only compensation. Taking it away leaves a gap that transfer payments do not fill. Progress. They kept using the word. I do not think automation was wrong. I do not think the technology should have been suppressed. I think the question was never the technology. The question was who benefits, how quickly, and what obligations arise toward people who are displaced. Those questions were treated as secondary. The automation was primary. The people were secondary. The order of priority was the problem. It was never the machines.